Hello, hi, a very happy good evening. So this is Krishnaveni and we've been talking about the story of life on earth, and that's biology. So welcome to my session today. So today it's lecture 2 of biodiversity and conservation. So today we are hoping to finish this chapter so that we can go to the last chapter of this unit very soon. So the last chapter of the unit being environmental issues. So we will try to complete biodiversity and conservation today. Okay, so before we go into biodiversity and conservation, that is lecture 2, so I will give you a quick recap of lecture 1 of what we spoke in lecture 1 of biodiversity and conservation. So then I have an announcement as well. So after that we move forward to today's lecture. So for all those who have joined my lecture, so thank you so much. So please do like, share and subscribe. Okay, so what does biodiversity and conservation has to tell us? So pay attention in today's class. So there are some points that you have to remember which are not there in NCERT. So time and again students ask me this question, ma'am, apart from NCERT, should we study something else? So not always, but in certain cases, yes, you have to refer beyond NCERT. But those points I will give you, so nothing to worry. Alright, so shall we talk about biodiversity and conservation? Yes? Okay, so lecture 2 of biodiversity and conservation. So before we go into today's lecture, so I have an announcement to make. So this evening, once again, we are meeting talking about cell, the unit of life. So cell, the unit of life. So here we are going to talk this is at 6 p.m. So today at 6 p.m. we are meeting again. So make sure you join me at 6 p.m. this evening as well. So a small change, it is not 6:30, it is 6 p.m. Alright. So we are meeting at 6 p.m. this evening. So I am starting a new chapter, that is cell, the unit of life. So make sure you join me for the same. Alright. So this is 6 p.m. cell, the unit of life. So we are moving to the next unit. So on the syllabus wrap up series, so I have completed unit 1 and unit 2. So this is unit 3 that I am starting, cell, the unit of life. So make sure you join me for the same. Alright. So shall we move into biodiversity and conservation? So today we will see what leads to the loss of biodiversity, and if you have a loss in biodiversity, what will happen and how can we conserve biodiversity. So these are some of the things that we will be addressing today. Okay. So moving further. Yes, hi Satyendra, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my session. So please do like, share and subscribe. So I have an announcement. So 6 p.m. we are meeting again. So I am starting the chapter cell, the unit of life. Sorry, this is lecture 2 of biodiversity and conservation. So a quick reminder or recap of what we spoke in lecture 1. So refreshing your memory on the topics that we spoke in this chapter. So these are some of the chapters. So biodiversity, so how many species are there on earth and how many in India? So I gave you a rough estimate. Then patterns of biodiversity, so we spoke about the latitudinal gradient. Then importance of species diversity to the ecosystem. So what is the importance? So if one species is lost, what will happen? So all these things we will discuss. Yes, Anthony Abhi, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my lecture today. So please do like, share and subscribe. Then loss of biodiversity. So loss of biodiversity leads to what? What will happen if you lose biodiversity? So those things we will address. Then biodiversity conservation. So why should we conserve and how are we going to conserve? So these are some of the points. So talking about the previous topic. Yes, I'm good, Anthony Abhi. How are you? So I defined what is biodiversity. Yes, it is the variability among living organisms. So that is biodiversity. So yesterday, how was the living world quiz? So were you able to answer? So I guess Satyendra, did you play? Yes, you played. So how did you find the quiz? Was it easy? Was it tough? How is it? Were you able to recollect the points? Yes? Was it easy? Alright, so this is about biodiversity and we spoke about the levels of biodiversity. So you have genetic level biodiversity, you have species level, you have ecological level biodiversity, and you have three types of biodiversity. So what are they? The first one is alpha diversity. So alpha diversity addresses the diversity among a community, or you can say it is within a community. Then you have beta diversity. So beta diversity is between communities. And then you have gamma diversity. So this is at ecological level. So this is within an ecosystem level, right? So these are the three types of biodiversity. EC. Some concepts by this quiz, okay, fine, okay. So make sure you take the Menti quiz seriously. So in a way you get it revised, right? You get the chapter done. Yes sir, a very happy good evening. So thank you for joining my lecture. So please do like, share and subscribe. So this is about the diversity and the types. So then we went on to talk about your patterns of biodiversity, or before that the estimates. So who was the scientist? So Robert May gave that the global species diversity is around 7 million. And we also spoke, so 70% of them are animals. So among animals, the largest phyla is your insects. So 22% are your plants. So among plants, angiosperms occupy the main portion. So followed by your fungi. Right, so all these we were discussing. So here you have to remember what is IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. So these are some of the points. So then we went on to talk about the patterns of diversity. So does the biodiversity increase at some point? Yes. So we started talking about latitudinal gradient. So what is latitudinal gradient? As you move from the equator towards the poles, then your biodiversity decreases. So equator is 0 degree and this is as it goes higher, right? So this is your poles. So this is about your latitudinal gradient. So what lies near the latitude? So I agree, biodiversity is not uniform and it has an uneven distribution. So what lies near the equator? So the name of the place you should remember, that is Colombia. Yes, so this has around 1400 species of birds, followed by India. So this is near equator, right? So around 23.5 degrees north and 23.5 degrees south, you have the tropics. So tropics harbor more amount of biodiversity than your temperate or your polar areas. So moving further, your Amazonian forest has the maximum biodiversity. Hi Disha, yes, a very happy good evening. Yes, I am fine, thank you. How are you? Good to see you. Yes, it's good to see your message here too. I hope you're enjoying your CP Live class. Yes, so this is about your tropics. But why tropics? Why do tropics harbor more biodiversity than your temperate or polars? So there were a few points, right, as to why it is your tropics. Hi Bharati, yes, I hope you're good. So thank you for joining my session. So please do like, share and subscribe. So why tropics? First thing, tropics speciation is a function of time and it is left undisturbed for a few years. So that is why it is a very favorable for biodiversity. Then it is less seasonal and thus it is more predictable. So I can tell you what will be the climate in the tropics in the month of November, in the month of next February also. It is more predictable. Alright. So number 3, you have more solar energy. So these are the reasons why tropics are favored. So it is less seasonal and it is more predictable. So thus it needs to niche specialization. Right? So depending on this, we spoke about one relation, that is species area relation. So it was given by Alexander von Humboldt. So species area relation. So what does it say? So as you move deeper into an area, the species richness increases, but only up to a certain point, right? So that is your species area richness. So this is your species, this is your area. So as you go, the species richness increases, but only up to a certain point. So after which it becomes a rectangular hyperbola. So what is the line? So this is S is equal to C A per Z. So log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. Right? So S talks about species richness, C about the y-intercept, Z about the slope, and A is the area. So these are some of the concepts that I discussed in your previous lecture. Going on to today's topic, so what are we going to discuss today? So today, importance of species diversity to the ecosystem. So how important is species diversity to an ecosystem? So for example, we have 3 lakh species of your beetles. And you have 20,000 species of your ants. So what is the importance of species diversity to the ecosystem? So scientists hypothesize that communities with more species tend to be more stable. But what do I mean by stable? What do I mean by stable? That means it is not changing, right? But how do I define biological stability? So what do I mean by biological stability for a biological community? So what does it emphasize? So when I say stability for a biological community, it means I don't want to have any variation from year to year. So there should be less variation in productivity from year to year. So this ensures stability, yes, and the community should be resistant or resilient to natural or man-made disturbances. If a drought comes, if a flood comes, if an earthquake comes, everything should not be washed off. It should be able to hold back itself. Right? Resistant or resilient to natural disturbances. Number 3, it should be resistant or resilient to alien invasion, to exotic species. It should not allow exotic or alien species invasion. So this is what I mean by biological stability or stability for a biological community. So when I say a biological community is stable, it should have less variation in productivity from year to year, and it should be resistant or resilient to the natural disturbances, and it should be resistant and resilient to alien invasion. Hi Pooja, yes, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my lecture. So please do like, share and subscribe. I hope you got the links for my human physiology videos. So if you have any doubts, get back to me. Alright. Today Shimpi is absent. Yes, I couldn't find Shimpi. Yes, hi Dharani. Yes, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my lecture. So please do like, share and subscribe. Okay. So this is about stability in a biological community. So stable community should not show much variation. So all that I have told you. So this was just hypothesized, but later it was proved because of David Tillman's observation. So he did some outdoor experiments, and he found that yes, increased diversity contributed to higher productivity. So more the species in a community, more productive it is, and thus it is more stable. So that was David Tillman's conclusion. Okay, yes, sure Pooja. Okay, so this was one point, but still they failed to understand why should we have so many species. For example, we'll have 3,00,000 species of beetle. What are we going to do with them? Thus, to give an analogy, to give a comparison, or to give an explanation for the same. So there is something called as Rivet-Popper hypothesis. So this hypothesis was given by Paul Eldridge. Okay, so what did he say? So he took a plane, the plane that flies, and he took an ecosystem. So what are the components inside a plane? So you have your seat, you have your foot tray, you have the wings of a plane, you have the overhead cabinets, yes, so many things. So ecosystem has so many species. So if I am traveling in a plane and if I pick up one of the seat and bring it to my house, the safety of the plane is not getting hampered. So similarly, if you are traveling in the plane and say for example, Satyendra picks up one wings of the plane and then slowly the safety of the plane is getting damaged. So similarly in an ecosystem, if one species is getting extinct, it does not make any difference. But one day when a keystone species is getting extinct, that makes all the difference because it might harm the ecosystem or the productivity of the ecosystem directly. So keystone species, the important species in an ecosystem which makes it functional and a structural component. Okay, so this is your Riveret-Popper hypothesis, and this was given by Paul Eldridge. Okay, so these are some of the things that you should remember. So moving further, so loss of biodiversity. So yes, today we are at a loss of a lot of biodiversity. So India has a total land area of 2.4%. So total world land area is 100%. Among that, India has a land area of 2.4%. Okay. But it contributes to biodiversity in the ratio 8.1, in the percentage 8.1. So thus India is among the 12 mega biodiversity countries of the world. So we are diversity rich, but we have lost half our resources. So if you look at the list that is given by IUCN, so IUCN releases the list of red list and the grey list. So red list talks about the extinct animal and or endangered animal, whereas your grey list talks about animals which are vulnerable to extinction. Alright, so if you look, there are so many species that you're waiting to be discovered. So there are four categories talking about your red list. So red list and grey list. So you have four categories. First one is extinct. So extinct is represented by EX. Alright, so extinct means no individuals are remaining. So no individuals of that particular species are remaining. So this is your extinct. So number 2, the next one is critically endangered. So critically endangered is CR. Okay, critically endangered, which means it has an extremely high risk of becoming extinct. So this is the second category. So number 3, it is endangered. Okay, so this has a high risk of getting extinct. So number 3 is vulnerable. It is vulnerable of getting endangered. So these are the 4 categories you should remember. Right? So in the next slide that I show you, these are some of the animals which have got extinct. For example, the animals that have got extinct in India are your dodo bird, your cheetah. So these are extinct. So endangered, some species of your tiger. So then you have your Tasmanian tiger. You have one kind of zebra, your sea cow. So all these are almost on the verge of extinction. So all these you should remember, right? So this is your zebra, this is your Tasmanian tiger, this is your sea cow, your dodo bird, and 3 species of tiger which are also on the verge of extinction. Okay. So what happens when you have loss of biodiversity? What does it lead to? So last 20 years alone have witnessed the disappearance of 27 species. So loss of biodiversity may lead to. Okay, so this census is according to your NCERT, the last time when your NCERT was updated. But today it is more number of species, but we go according to the data of your NCERT. Okay, so loss of biodiversity may lead to decline in plant production. If you have a decline in plant production, so that leads to the decrease in the productivity of your ecosystem. So the gross productivity reduces. Thus, it in turn reduces the net primary productivity. So, these are some of the reasons. So, lowered resistance to environmental disturbances such as drought. So, if you do not have plants, who will hold the soil? So, you will have soil erosion. Who will hold back the water? All that happens, thus making itself vulnerable to environmental conditions. So, increased variability in ecosystem processes like your plant. So, you have variability. So, stability is not maintained. You have variability. Plant productivity, water used, pest and disease cycle. So, all these make a huge difference. So, thus your biodiversity leads to all these consequences. Right? So, moving forward to the next part, what leads to the loss of biodiversity? So, why have we lost biodiversity? It is not that me and Satyendra goes out every day to cut trees, right? We hardly do, but we learn, yes, deforestation is happening. So, every time you use a paper, remember you are cutting down trees. So, the future generation, we are already in a situation where we are paying for oxygen. Imagine if you waste a lot of paper, if you waste a lot of trees, so definitely our future generation will have to compete for oxygen. So, be that much aware as a true citizen. So, causes of biodiversity losses. So, first is habitat loss and fragmentation. So, before all of us used to live within the city limits, right? So, we used to live in the heart of the city, but as days went by, people started migrating to the outskirts of the city. So, before the outskirts of the city were just calm, scenic, only fields and farms, etc. But these days, when you travel outside the city, you have huge buildings, you have huge MNCs, you have factories, you have apartments coming up, right? So, we are slowly migrating, and as a result, we also dwell into the forest region. So, even if you take 25% of the forest, yes, even in that 25%, it is a shelter to a lot of animals. So, if you invade that 25%, then a lot of animals become shelterless and homeless. So, habitat loss and fragmentation. So, over-exploitation turns to greed. So, this is a very true thing, and still we are very greedy. So, having one particular land and one home does not satisfy. All of us wants to have a home in the city, in that city, like this, like that. Yes, so one for each. So, everyone has equal right. So, when you feel this is not needed for you, this is extra, so you should let it go, because the one who is in need will get it, right? So, over exploitation turns to greed. So, alien species invasion. So, sometimes alien species disturbs or damages the endemic species. So, what do you mean by endemic species? The species that can grow only in that particular habitat. So, that is your endemic species. Alright. So, alien species invasion. So, here you have a few examples to remember. So, one example is your water hyacinth. Yes, this caused the terror of Bengal. So, this is one example. The second example is your Nile perch. So, it is a type of fish. It is a type of predator fish which feeds on a prey. So, this was introduced into Lake Victoria of East Africa from your Nile. So, when this was introduced, a lot of fishes, that is chit fishes, became extinct, which is endemic to Lake Victoria. So, these are some of the examples of your alien species invasion. So, I will give you one more example also. So, you have Parthenium. So, Parthenium is carrot grass. So it is a weed that grows along with wheat, so thus eliminating other possible herbs and shrubs. Okay, so this is Parthenium. And number 4, you have one more thing. You have an African catfish. So that is known as Clarias. So this does not allow the native or indigenous catfishes to live. This destroys indigenous catfishes. So these are some of the examples of your alien species invasion. Yes, good evening. So thank you so much for joining my lecture today. So please do like, share and subscribe. So these are examples of your alien species invasion. So please remember these examples. These are very important. So pollen allergy, yes, Parthenium acts as a pollen allergen. You're right, absolutely right, Antonia B. Then co-extinctions. For example, there are mutualisms, right? So in population interaction, we spoke about mutual population interaction. For example, plants depend on pollinators. So without pollinators, plants cannot reproduce sexually. So if pollinators are eliminated, so the plant species also undergo elimination. So this is what is known as co-extinction. Fine. So these are some of the reasons. So please remember the examples. The examples are also equally important. So please make a note of these examples. Clear? Yes. So moving forward. So causes of biodiversity loss. So this is your catfish. This is your African catfish. This is your Clarias. Right? Main cause. Okay. So main cause, you can say all of them are main cause in a way, but habitat loss and fragmentation is the first cause, you can say. But all the other are also added to the main point. So it is like adding fuel to the fire. So Raghuram, hi, hello, and thank you so much for joining my lecture. So please do like, share and subscribe. So how do you conserve biodiversity? So yes, so long I was teaching you about the importance of biodiversity. So what happens? So what happens if you have a loss of biodiversity? So how are we losing biodiversity? Everything. But at the end of the day, how are you going to conserve it, right? Yes, so main cause, you can say it started with your habitat loss and fragmentation. So that is the main cause, and all the other then added fuel to the fire, you can say. So it started with your habitat loss and fragmentation, then co-extinction. So these are some of the reasons. Alright, so main cause is the first one. Okay, so how are we going to conserve it? At the end of the day, all of us need solution. So what is the solution? So biodiversity is narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian and ethical. So narrow is a small passage, broad is a huge passage. So narrowly utilitarian, so how it is useful to a single individual. How is it useful only to me? I get plant products, I get animal products. So that is how I need the ecosystem, right? So broadly utilitarian, how is the biodiversity important to the entire ecosystem? So it provides, it purifies air, it causes rainfall. Yes, it causes a lot of issues. Your drought, flood, etc. Everything happens because you do not have a functional ecosystem. Then ethical, right? So what is this ethical? How many plants you chop? And then you do tissue culture technique. So what is the point? That is wrong. So it is also ethical. So narrowly utilitarian. So humans derive countless direct economic benefits from nature. That is food and products of medicinal value. Then broadly utilitarian. So this talks about biodiversity, which plays a major role in many ecosystems that nature provides. So ethical, so related to what we owe to millions of plant, animals and microbes. So this is your biodiversity conservation. So first we have categorized as to how important it is. Alright. So moving further, how to conserve biodiversity. So one way to conserve biodiversity is your in situ conservation. So in situ is on site, in its natural place. in its natural place if you conserve, that is in situ conservation. So if you have your red fort, so if you have palaces of great kings, you try to restore, you try to modify in the same place, right? But if you have an idol, if you have an object, you bring it to the museum, you repair it and then you keep it, right? So that is off-site conservation. So on-site, when you do it exactly in the same place where the organism's natural habitat is, so that is your on-site conservation. Okay, so moving forward, the next is your XII, that is off-site conservation. So in situ conservation, so biodiversity hotspots which are very high levels of species richness and high degree of endemism. So before we go, so what are hotspots? So what does it mean if I say biodiversity hotspot? So species, so which they are basically regions which are rich in species, then you have high degree of endemism, and you also have a high degree of threat of the organism. So then this area comes under your hotspot. So what does hotspot mean? A region which is rich in biodiversity and it has a high degree of endemism. So endemism means an organism that is present in that particular region only. That is endemism, okay, and high degree of threat. So this classifies, or this criteria satisfies for being a hotspot. So India initially had 25 hotspots and later we came to have 34 hotspots. All right. Okay, so in situ conservation, so first one is your hotspots. So we have 14 biosphere reserves, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries. So all this come under your in situ conservation. So ex situ conservation, when the threatened species is taken out of its natural habitat and taken to a different place for conservation, that is ex situ conservation. All right. For example, your panda. Yes, a very happy good evening, ma'am. So thank you so much for joining my lecture. So please do like, share and subscribe. So panda, we have done ex situ conservation. We have got panda out of its natural habitat, mimicked its natural habitat, meaning they have put some plants here and there. So they have placed some games because panda gets stressed if you leave it alone, and a lot of bamboos to play around. So that is why we are trying to preserve your giant panda, because this is under your endangered list. Fine. Okay, so a quick flow chart of your in situ conservation. So what are the in situ methods of conservation? So first one is your national parks. So the first national park in India is your Jim Corbett National Park. So national park, you can preserve your animals as well as your plants, and you can have a variety. It's not that you have only one animal, okay? So next one is your sanctuaries, your wildlife sanctuaries. So what are these wildlife sanctuaries? So wildlife sanctuaries are pretty specific. So if you want to preserve antelope species, so it is specific, it is species specific, you can say. So number 3 is your biosphere reserve. So biosphere reserve is a piece of protected land that is important, okay. In biosphere reserve, you have to remember 3 regions. So you have a core region, surrounding it you have a buffer region, surrounding that you have a transition region. So you have 3 regions in your biosphere reserve. Chat is not working, okay, I don't know why. Okay, once again I'll inform them. So they are telling me they have nothing, so it is the automatic way out how it works. So that is why you're coming from 2 different accounts, okay. Okay, so Anandi, so this is I guess Dharani. So syllabus wrap up, biological classification is done. So can you go back and check the videos? Yes, Dharani? Yes. So the core region is where no humans are allowed. So buffer region is where your management and educational institutes work for research. So this is your buffer zone. So transitional is where you have your settlements, your tribal settlements, your crops, etc. So biosphere is a piece of land that is getting protected. So here you have three regions, okay? Core, buffer, transition. So in core region, no humans are allowed. In buffer region, so management and your educational research institutes you work for basically as research. Then your transition zone, this is the last zone. So this is where you have settlements, you have crops, etc. Yes, I know it is Dharani. Okay. So syllabus wrap up series, biological classification is done. So that was taught by Avneet ma'am. I didn't teach. Normal lecture also I have completed biological classification. Okay. Anthony Abhi says working. So Anthony Abhi, have you understood? Is this clear? This is your biosphere reserve. So these are in situ conservations. And number 4, you have sacred groves. Like the Aravalli hills of Rajasthan and some hills of Meghalaya, they come under your sacred groves. Okay? Yes? Yes, because in syllabus wrap-up series, Avneet ma'am took that chapter and your plant kingdom. So I didn't take those 2 chapters. Okay? Yes? So these are your in situ conservation. So talking about your ex situ conservation. So your ex situ conservation includes your tissue culture technique. So this includes your tissue culture technique. Your seed banks. Cryopreservation techniques. So cryopreservation of your embryos and your gametes. So these are your ex situ conservation. Done? Yes? So with this we come to an end of this chapter. So do you have any more doubts? So should I repeat any particular point or is this clear? Yes, this is clear, no doubts. So for all those who are joined now, so we are meeting this evening once again at 6 p.m. and we are starting a new chapter, that is Cell the Unit of Life. So please join me after a break of 1 hour. So with this we are done with this chapter. So shall we solve some questions? So Raghuram, thank you. So you are attending my lectures and I hope you are understanding. If you do not understand, so please stop me right there. Okay? Yes. So following arrangement is correct from the point of view of decreasing biodiversity in angiosperms. So which order is right? So N talks about your angiosperms, F about your fungi, P stands for your pteridophytes and A for your algae. So which is right? Yes, give me the answer. Yes, what is the answer? Yesterday I told you about the pie chart, right? Yes, which is the decreasing order of biodiversity? A. Decreasing order. Biodiversity decreases as you go like this. So this means angiosperm has the least biodiversity and your algae has the least biodiversity, angiosperm has the highest biodiversity. Is it angiosperms or fungi? Yesterday someone asked me and I told you it is fungi and then you have your angiosperms, right? Yes? So angiosperms, fungi, pteridophytes, algae. So pteridophytes are more. Open your pie chart. Quick. Open your NCERT, open the pie chart. See which is more, pteridophytes or algae. So pteridophytes include your horsetails, right? Yes, come on, quickly check your NCERT and let me know. A is right. No doubt. So it is this order. So fungi followed by your angiosperms, your algae, and at the end you have your pteridophytes. So this is the decreasing order. It is option D. Okay, Satyendra and Antonia B, is it clear? It is option D and not A. So your algae has more diversity compared to your pteridophytes. So it is option D. Yes, so please read your NCERT. So please go through the diagrams in your NCERT. They are equally important. Fine. Yes. So question 2. So Indian rhinoceros is a natural inhabitant of which of the following Indian states? Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Assam. So Indian rhinos are seen in which one? So questions of these kind also can come. So the Indian rhinos is a natural inhabitant of which of the following Indian state? So Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Assam. So where do you have your Kaziranga National Forest? So that is famous for your rhinos, right? So that is present in which state? Yes, geography is also important. See how geography is helping you right now. Yes, perfect, Raghuram. Very, very good. So your great Indian rhinos are present in your Kaziranga forest and that is situated in your Assam. Alright. So not a lot of questions will come. 1 or 2 questions like this will come. So question number 3. Tropics account for greater biodiversity. So which one of the following points does not match with the tropical environment? More solar energy is available, less seasonal and more predictable, frequent climatic disturbances, have long evolutionary time for speciation. Which of the points are incorrect with respect to your tropics? Yes, you are right, Satyendra. It was Assam. Yes. So question number 3, what is the answer? Yes, tropics account for greater yes, perfect, Raghuram. It is frequent climatic disturbances. No, they are less seasonal. So you do not have more disturbances, right? So it is frequent climatic disturbance. Yes, absolutely right, Antonia B. Okay, so this is a figure. So question 4, which one of the following is the correct matched pair of an endangered animal and its national park? Rhinoceros, Kaziranga National Forest, so wild ass, Duwada National Park, Great Indian Bustard, Colorado National Park, Lion, Corbett National Park. Any guesses? Any guesses? What would be the answer? So Great Indian Bustard is Colorado National Park. Is it endangered animal? So that is also important. Yes, Raghuram, it is rhinoceros, it is extinct and it is present in your Kaziranga National Park. Yes, absolutely right, Raghuram and Antonia B. So it is option A, rhinoceros is your Kaziranga National Park. So any guess, where is your Great Indian Bustard found? Yes, any guess? Yes, endangered. So your rhinoceros are endangered. Yes. So in the next class, when I am discussing only questions, I will give you a list of endangered and extinct animal. So it is easy for you to revise. Okay. So question 5. According to IUCN Red List, what is the status of red panda? Whether it is critically endangered, vulnerable, extinct, or endangered species. I told you there are 4 levels, right? So which level does your red panda belong to? Red panda is known as Ailurus fuligens. Okay, so fulgens. So what is the status? Any guesses? Any guesses? What is the status of your red panda? Yes, your Great Indian Bustard are birds and they are found in your Deccan Plateau. Yes, you're absolutely right, Raghuram. Yes, your red panda, what is the status of red panda? Critically endangered? No, your red panda are endangered species. They are in a high risk of getting extinct. So, critically endangered means extremely high risk, but your red panda is your endangered according to the red list data. Fine. So, option 5 is D. Everyone has noted. So, can I move forward? Yes. So, question 6. Endangered or threatened animals are protected from its extinction by ex situ conservation in which of the following? Wildlife sanctuary, biosphere reserves, national parks, zoological parks. So, which one is a type of ex situ conservation? So, wildlife sanctuary. So, sanctuaries I have mentioned in situ conservation. So, national parks, I told you Jim Corbett National Park, it is in situ. So, biosphere reserve is a piece of protected land. So, this also comes under in situ. So, zoological parks are the last one. Yes. So, these are ex situ conservation. Yes, Harsha. So, thank you for joining my lecture. So, please do like, share and subscribe. Good. So, question 7. So, buffer zone, core zone, transition zones are the 3 subdivisions of biosphere reserve. So, out of this, the transition zone covers the buffer zone and lies in between the buffer zone and the core zone. Option B covers the core zone and lies in between the core zone and the buffer zone, is the innermost zone of the biosphere reserve, and it is the outermost zone of the biosphere reserve. So, which one is the right term for transition? So, you have 3 zones. So, you have your core zone, then you have your buffer zone, then you have your transition zone. So, which is the right answer? Yes, absolutely right. The outermost zone of the biosphere reserve is your transition zone. Yes, perfectly right. Harsha, B, it covers the core zone and it lies between the core zone and the buffer zone. Is it in between? No, it is the outermost zone. It is not in between the core zone and the buffer zone. Okay? No, innermost zone is the core zone. Transition is the outermost. Okay, so please don't make mistake. So last question. So Dachingam Wildlife Sanctuary in Kashmir is associated with which of the following? So Dachingam Wildlife Sanctuary, so it's the type of in situ conservation. So definitely it is not rhinoceros because we know it is Kaziranga National Forest. So none of the above cannot be the answer. So it is Cervellus elaphus hanglu. So this is your Kashmiri hag. Okay. So this is present in your Dachingam Wildlife Sanctuary. So it is your Kashmiri stag, not hag. Yes, it is option C. Yes, this is the right answer. So with this, I come to an end of biodiversity and conservation. So in the next class, so today is Friday, right? So next class, that is on Monday, I will bring questions from this chapter, 30 questions. So we will discuss the question. So with that, we will be done with biodiversity and conservation. All right. So a gentle reminder. So this is the end of biodiversity. So a gentle reminder, we are starting a new topic this evening at 6 p.m. So after a break of 1 hour, so please do join me. We are going to discuss or start sell the unit of life. Okay. So if you genuinely liked my way of teaching, so please do like, share and subscribe. I'm looking forward to meet you after 1 hour, so please do come back, and until then stay safe, and this is me signing off. So thank you so much. Yes, it is 6, so every day it is 4 to 5, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday again 6 to 7 we have a class. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at 6:30 we have a mentee. So every day 4 to 5 p.m. is common. MWF 6 to 7 also we have a class. TTS we have a mentee at 6:30 p.m. Okay, yes, so please stay safe and take care. So until then, this is me signing off, so bye bye.